Joining us for our political roundtable this morning, Republican analyst Ginny, Buckingham, Democratic analyst Marsh. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Massachusetts House's transparency bill. Republicans criticize the bill in part because it bans courts from intervening in any dispute. The only recourse is for the auditor to make a note of their lack of cooperation in her report. Ginny, how is this transparent? You're shaking your head.
Well, if I didn't know any better, I'd say it was DiZoglio who was behind the scenes writing this so that she could have this political issue. I mean, it's handing her an issue on a silver platter, and it's the result really of one-party rule in this state. They can do whatever they want because they don't have opponents. They don't have a Republican Party fighting them. They don't have a governor that calls them out. They can do whatever they want.
Marianne?
Well, the four elements you showed at the top of the show that are part of the House bill that passed 125 to 28 are actually the four things that the Auditor DiZoglio's lawyers asked for in court, and that's what the House gave them. For all the other topics that we heard about today and the other requests, the lawyers should go back in court and ask to get them. But I think there's a reason they didn't ask for them to begin with, because it does violate separation of power. And that's the dangerous thing here. We've been talking about the separation of power since Donald Trump came back into office, but now it's here as well. And I think people don't understand that the House governs the House, the Senate governs the Senate. You know, we can go down the list, but it's those three branches of government do not have oversight over each other.
Next item, the first World Cup match in Foxboro is now just days away. The Summer Street standoff in Boston has finally come to an end. The state and the city reached a deal to close that. We're going to highlight it in red, that red part of the street during some games and partly close it during others. Police will make decisions as they see fit. Marianne, why did this have to become a weeks-long back and forth between the mayor and the governor?
I think the real test is, do people get to Foxboro, either on train or by car or by all this? This is in the rearview mirror.
Why is that a mystery? People have been driving to Foxboro for 50 years.
Well, and we have transportation problems to begin with. They assume we're going to have big crowds. Let's hope we do, and then that's the test. I will say, I think it's great they upgraded the Foxboro train station and made it better and did all the modifications for this.
This didn't need to be a public spat, though. Which is what it turned into, it seems.
In the scheme of things these days in politics, Sherman, you know where that is, right?
Right, but you know, leadership is about relationships and communication, and you know, the DNC is looking at Boston, and I hope they choose Boston for the convention. But if the two most powerful Democrats can't get along, that's not a good sign.
They do, but they do. I think that's overstating the case. On any day, even a Friday or a Monday, traffic is terrible here. Add all those fans, it's going to be, let's see how it gets handled.
Let's see. All right, we're going to wait and see. All right, there's new polling in the Republican gubernatorial primary. Mike Minogue is leading Brian Shortsleeve 45% to 13%. The Suffolk poll found 40% are undecided and 57% say they want one or two debates between Minogue or Shortsleeve. What does this tell us about the race, Ginny?
Well, it wasn't a great poll for Brian Shortsleeve, there's no question, but it wasn't a slam dunk for Mike Minogue either, because there's so many undecided voters, and voters do want to see a campaign. They want to see a primary. I don't understand why Mike Minogue is afraid to debate Brian Shortsleeve. I don't understand why he doesn't accept that getting more people to vote in the Republican primary is good for his campaign ultimately. He's reading this all wrong.
All right, what do you think?
I mean, I agree with Ginny, and the fact is, the question is, which one of them has room to grow? Technically, with 40% undecided, there's a lot of room to go. But Minogue's got to nail down at least another 6% to ensure he wins 51, whatever, right? But I don't think there are enough hardcore right-wing Republicans left in Massachusetts. It's the unenrolled voters who might go and vote for Maura Healey or might stay and maybe vote for Brian Shortsleeve, the Baker voters and all that. So there's plenty of room there. On the debates, that's a big sign in the polls, because they don't know either one of these guys. Right. Yes, they know the ads for Mike Minogue, but people have to get to know you if they want you to be your next governor. And I would want the practice against Brian Shortsleeve before he
You don't want to go on that stage with Maura Healey, never having debated.
The prosecutor.
Yeah.
Senator Ed Markey overwhelmingly won the Democratic Party's nomination at the state party convention, but his victory wasn't enough to keep Congressman Seth Moulton off the ballot. The two will battle each other in a primary this September, Senator Markey delivering a fiery speech that brought delegates to their feet. Congressman Moulton also getting a warm welcome in that room. So what do both candidates need to do as we go forward, Marianne?
Sherman and I had a front row seat for this.
Yeah.
You know, Markey finally decided this week he has a race and he's going to start campaigning. And you started to see it certainly in the speech at the convention where he was hitting Seth Moulton up one side, down the other in trans rights. And now he's doing it again. He's continuing that. He had been running like podcast ads, so just under the radar screen, but now he's asking for a Western Mass debate, which my people are pretty progressive out there. And to to have a Western Mass debate out there are all the people who will come out in that primary on September 1st, 86 days from today, that will decide that election, not the general election, this election.
You know, it's interesting because until now he's been running what's known as a Rose Garden strategy, except he wasn't even showing up in the Rose Garden. And so now he realizes that he's got a real race. He's running a little scared, and that's what we're seeing here. And this is good. The debate's going to be great.
I agree.
All right. The House passed a resolution to limit President Donald Trump's war powers in Iran. This is a major rebuke to the president and his handling of the conflict. Now, Democrats have forced several unsuccessful votes to limit the president's war powers, but this time, 4 Republicans crossed party lines. So what message does this send to the president, and will he listen, Ginny?
I don't know the answer to the last one. He doesn't seem to listen to anyone but himself. But if the Republican Party in Congress had done more of this all along the way, they'd be in much better position in these midterms. They would have been putting forth their vision for the country and not just standing back and not responding to anything that's gone on. I'm glad they did it now, even though it isn't going to go anywhere. It's kind of a pointless vote.
Marianne?
Better late than never, but never's around the corner. Donald Trump doesn't care. He's told everyone he doesn't care. He doesn't listen to anybody. And I think from at least today forward, you can't look at these elections like a normal election. He is going to interfere. Putting Bill Plute on the head of the DNI to get all the security information and all that, he's going to undermine the elections, whether it's voting rights, whether it's you can't do mail-in ballots, Alabama, Louisiana, go through all the redistricting. So he's cheating already, and he's going to cheat his way right through November, and that's a fact.
Best or worst when we come back.